So just to quickly, what is PubSub? So publishing events, subscribing to events. So this talk is about publishing and subscribing events via the medium of Postgres, which is not your normal PubSub medium, but there we go. So why would you want to do this? Well, in a sort of generic system, you're going to use PubSub to distribute tasks amongst various discrete units. These could be different processes, nodes, or machines. But essentially, it's just a way of breaking something up into different units of code. So why would you want to do this with Postgres? Well, my use case is that I wanted to distribute processing of events between languages, and I didn't want to use Redis, a queuing system, a message bus, or any of those other grown-up technologies. I wanted to do something terrible. I wanted to react to changes in my database from a different code base, because our code base has 3 languages writing to the same database. Yes, this is terrible. Please don't at me. So how do we do this? So Postgres actually has some SQL commands that allow us to implement PubSub entirely in SQL. So if you've not seen them, these commands are listen to channel name, where channel name is anything you want it to be, and to send messages to that, you do that's syntax actually incorrect. Notify channel, comma, and then your payload. Your payload can be a string, your payload could be JSON, it can be pretty much anything that Postgres will accept you to send over the wire. Although I did discover a bug in, well, it's not really a bug in Postgres through doing this, but don't name your channels with camel casing, because Postgres treats channel names like table names, and unless you quote them, weird things happen with Postgres. And, okay, so what can we do with this? Well, as I said, I'm using it to notify my Elixir application when I'm receiving stuff from another table. So I actually have to do a little bit more SQL. This is creating a Postgres function called notify result that basically, when it's triggered, takes the things it's given to, well, it takes the table it's been given to and runs pg notify, which is what is the same as calling that notify statement, and just sends the ID of the table that's been changed. I have to do this little trigger to run that function each time it's run, but after that, any writes or updates to my table will run that function, which causes a notification to be sent to any listeners. So how do we do this in Elixir? Well, the easy way to send a message is just you have to abuse Ecto slightly to talk to the repo and send the raw SQL, but I don't use this because I have my trigger. And then I need to be able to find a way to listen to it. Luckily, Postgres has this little notifications module, and all I've got to do is create a little gen server, and that little gen server just has to start up. It has to init itself by going, hey, I want to get the database configuration from the repo. I want to start up the Postgres notifications, and I want to subscribe to that channel. And all I have to do really is keep the PID in the state, but I don't even have to do that. I'm just doing it so to make sure that I only get notifications that I've actually subscribed to in this process. And then all I've got to do then is handle info in my gen server. So each time I'm sent this, is it a tuple with 4 items? With the 4 bits of state, and I can do anything I want. So I have more code in my actual real implementation, but that's actually all that's required to listen and subscribe to notifications. So what can you do with this? As I said, I'm using it to react to table updates from another application. It turns out that other application is Rails. I used to be a Ruby developer. I'm reformed somewhat. But I wanted to implement our GraphQL API with subscriptions and streaming. Having spent a week trying to do this in Rails, I did it in half an afternoon with Phoenix. So I used that notification to power my GraphQL subscriptions. Every time a result ends up in a table, it is streamed over my API with the power of Postgres PubSub. We also use it to do some out-of-band calculations for gathering statistics on those same results. It's actually quite useful. The Phoenix app was able to implement all of that, set it up without talking to the Rails app or the Lambdas. It just sits there, listens and does its thing, and so far it hasn't broken in production. So that was very quick. I've rushed through that at a lightning pace, and thank you very much.